Good afternoon. Gretchen Newsom on behalf of IBEW 569. Just here in prevailing wages, they are also union wages, and these are the wages that truly do lift up families and provide those wages so that they can support their families, invest back into their communities, and live great lives. So the more that we can do to provide prevailing wages to more people, and that also comes with additional apprenticeship opportunities, the better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Lemmon with the Building Trades.
I just have to. It's so much fun. I saw Joel put it down. I watch you, Joel. Tom Lemmon, San Diego Building Trades. Appreciate the opportunity. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I got a little story, but I want to cut right to the chase. This new policy leaves some gray areas out that, and I know that's your intent, but I'd like to read you just a little note. Imagine a policy that provides the best trained and skilled workforce on port assets. A policy that requires opportunity and training for the next generation of skilled workers. An opportunity for careers that pay middle-class wages, health care, and pensions. The more projects covered by prevailing wage, the better. Having a port prevailing wage policy on all port projects is a public benefit that San Diego deserves. I hope that as you talk about this, that you just don't say where the law requires it, but you say, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of San Diego, and we should, as a port general policy, say any leasee who does improvements on their property include prevailing wage. Because that is not what we're talking about here today, if I'm correct. That we are talking about public works projects. I'd say you should have everybody who is on port property pay good wages so that your investment or their investment in your property is one that's lasting and long-term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemmon. Okay, that's it for public speakers. First of all, before I go to Commissioner Zucchet, any technical questions from anybody? Okay, Commissioner Zucchet.
There was a technical question which I was just talking to Commissioner Castellanos about, which is, would there be any, and this is for my specialized lawyers in the area, would there be any legal policy that on its own projects, irrespective of the cutoff, and the prevailing wage project applies to public works of a certain size, on its own projects that for which prevailing wage categories have been established, that we require the payment of prevailing wage? Would that be a legal problem?
And explain the question, because I didn't understand what the General Counsel's asked.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The basic concept is that public, and this can be explained as well, that prevailing wages are a requirement of state law for government agencies to pay on certain public works projects. Mm-hmm. Not all public works projects, only those involving a contribution or an investment by the agency of, I think, $1,000, where the cutoff is. Not every single one. And so, but the question would be, could we extend as our policy a requirement for our projects that for all of those that prevailing wages be paid for those jobs for which there are prevailing wages established? And as Dave mentioned, not every job has that.
Please.
So the answer to your question is there's nothing in the law that prohibits the port from establishing its own policy. There are jurisdictions that have done just such a thing. So that would be at the discretion of the port commissioners themselves.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Zucchet.
Thank you. So we've got this 1972 policy that is perhaps along the lines of what the two of you were just talking about, that wasn't necessarily, in fact, it was necessarily not based in any other state law or any law. It was a policy that we maybe don't know what the 7 commissioners at the time were thinking of or what their purpose was, but we know it was a 7-0 vote to establish a policy that, as they worded it, I don't know if you have it back up there, essentially, you know, all persons employed, there you go, all persons who are employed by lessee on the tidelands of the district. So obviously, on the one hand, as you said, Dave, much broader. On the other hand, you know, perhaps with the use of the word persons who are employed, or the phrase persons who are employed, maybe leaving out, you know, contractors and the construction industry. So I think we all acknowledge that there's some issues with that. No matter what you think of prevailing wage or not, there's some issues with our existing policy. What's before us is to essentially restate state law and simply say, we're only going to do what we have to do under state law. And I think the point that Tom Lemmon made is a good one, that whether we do that or don't do that, we're still going to be subject to that state law. So we're not really doing anything by, other than cleaning up a policy that has some problems. And so, so we sort of solve that issue of the old policy 356, but we're not really doing anything else, and we're not stating what the policy of this board is, whether we simply want to follow the state law, which we have to whether we want to or not, or whether we intend to aspire to do more. I think we should aspire to do more in terms of this being public lands and sort of just a basic premise, ethic, that when we deal with public lands and public projects, we should aspire to create jobs that support workers in a way that doesn't require them to be on other forms of public assistance, that pays them middle-class wages and provides health care. And I mean, that's the sort of purpose, that's the spirit of why prevailing wage is required on public works projects as is defined in state law. And we can define what we want to do on Port Tidelands to be to go a little further than what state law does, as you acknowledge other organizations have done. I'm not sure if commissioners are ready to do that today. And so I'd like to hear what my other colleagues have to say about it, but because I would want to be, I mean, there was just a question about, you know, what Tom Lemmon said was, you know, anything that touches 1 square inch of public land should be prevailing wage no matter, well, not no matter what, but if the lessee, even an existing lessee, is, you know, embarking upon any sort of construction project, that they would use a trade under these wages. So there's that. There's the question you just asked about actual port projects. So I don't know. I'm curious to hear what other people have to say about it. I guess I would say, I wouldn't say it's a waste of time to simply create a policy that restates existing state law, but that feels like a bit of a waste of time to me. If it's all a majority of this commission wants to do, I think we should have that discussion. If the majority of this commission wants to do something, aspire a little higher, I think we should do that, whether it's today or at some point in the future. So just wanted to throw all that out there and see what happens next.
Okay, Vice Chair Moore?